All right, here we are at our 1974 Captain's Craft 13 by 54 foot steel hull houseboat that's been converted to a floating cabin. Now you can just barely see it right now. I'm starting this tour from the corner of the dock that is accompanying the sail of this one. This is moored out, meaning you're not connected to any marina walkway. We'll have some exterior photos of this at the website, and the current asking price can also be found at the website. We won't mention those in the video tours because they will often change until the listing is sold. Our website is www.yournewboat.com. If you take the time to open up a new tab or web browser and type in yournewboat.com, hit enter, wait for the website to load. That orange lettering lets you know you're at the right place. In the top left hand corner there'll be a button that says find your new boat. If you click that, it's going to show you all of our inventory and order a price. You're not going to be overwhelmed. You're mostly looking at the boats in the East Tennessee area, a little bit beyond that, mostly on Norris Lake. So if you just scroll down to get to the 1974 Captain's Craft 13 by 54 foot or a 380 square foot floating cabin. Now, the dock that I'm staying on the corner on right now, this is approximately 14 by 74 feet long, 14 foot wide. This boat slip here is about a 9 foot by 19 foot boat slip, and we've got a front mount boat lift that's going with this. Now, that's going to be most suitable for a small runabout. It's got bunk set up right now for just a regular V-hull. You can convert that to a pontoon, but you're going to need to stay on the small side. You're probably going to want something under 18 feet is probably going to be most appropriate for this lift. Any kind of a 14, maybe up to about an 18 foot runabout is going to be most suitable. I don't know if you heard that splash, but a large fish just jumped right behind me here. So we've got newer stain on this dock. I'm gonna start moving forward now, and I'm also underneath a covered, basically a carport. This is an approximately 14 by 62 foot cover, and that's gonna go all the way forward and cover most of this 74 foot dock. Now it's also important to note, we're staying on lumber decking, and this is all lumber framed. And you've got old style styrofoam flotation underneath this dock. Now they've added some plastic encasing around the exterior, but in order to be compliant with TVA regulations, you will need to replace these floats. I'll try to get you a look over the edge. Actually, and that's part of the styrofoam that is not encapsulated. That's just raw styrofoam right there. Now you can see a little bit of a plastic skirt up on the front. That will help keep the styrofoam from breaking apart a little bit, but it's not the same as replacing it with encapsulated floats. So I want to point that out. Now, this floating cabin its previous life was that as a houseboat, a steel hull houseboat. It has been made non-navigable, as in they removed the motor, so it is now a floating cabin, and will need to be registered appropriately with TVA and listed with the floating cabin program. So as you can see, I'm on the front part of this dock now, and I'm just outside of the cover. We've got roughly, well, if you did the math on that, you got about 12 feet of it up here towards the front that is uncovered. And we've got a swim boarding ladder up here in the front as well, and somebody's also added a nice fishing light. We've got a good sized storage shed on here as well. This is about a 6 by 7 foot storage shed. Oops. And I've got this open up with this. We've got R13 insulation in here, and it's basically just been a big tool shed or storage shed. There is power running here. Now, another thing to mention is this one right now is currently moored with a neighbor on each side. This can stay here. It's really up to the buyer. You can relocate this here within the marina harbor, or you can go somewhere else on the lake as long as they have room for you. Front porch. Actually, I'm going to enter in through the front porch. We've got a nice Issenglass enclosure that's been added to the front porch of this. And this can make this room quite comfortable. Almost year round. Actually, during the summer months, it's actually going to get a little bit too hot. You do have screens on either side. You've got a screen here and a screen over here on the other side. Now you can roll that Issenglass up and get some airflow through here. Spring, fall, and winter, this is going to be great. Summer to get a little hot. We actually, there's a screen up here on the front too. So that's a little privacy curtain that's built into that, and then you've got screens and Issenglass underneath here. So we're standing on the front porch of this one now, and this, like I said, this has basically been converted to a floating cabin, approximately 380 square feet of interior space of floating cabin. That does not include this room. This is, I guess this would be more like a 3-season room. There's going to be a lot of personal belongings and personal effects that are not going to transfer with this, but I also want to point out there's a small Whirlpool electric fridge, refrigerator, freezer up here on the front porch, and that is operational. That will be staying. Your appliances and your larger furnishings will be staying. Excluded items are going to be fishing equipment, tools, and other personal belongings of that nature. So now I've stepped into the main living area, and you can see we've got a kitchen set up. This was still a boat. This would be the port side. You've got a full-size GE 4-burner electric oven and range with an over-the-head GE microwave, a double stainless sink, newer countertop, newer cabinets, and then we've got a Kenmore side-by-side electric refrigerator freezer with ice and water in the door. You've got a smaller Samsung television up here as well. It's about a I'd say about a 32-inch Samsung television, a small little leather recliner sofa. Small table and chairs. Now this boat was basically had all new windows. We've got updated windows and doors. These are insulated vinyl windows. Those are newly added. You've got siding on the exterior, and they've insulated the walls and the ceiling. So this, you've got insulated walls, windows, doors, and a ceiling on this. Central heat and air was also added. Now, we're standing on some newer floors as well. And again, this can remain here. You can take this to the marina of your choice. And this will need to be registered as a floating cabin with TVA. That's going to come with some additional regulations. But it also, once you register this as a floating cabin and join the floating cabin program, you will always own this footprint. If anything ever happened to this, you can rebuild this to the size that it currently is. You cannot expand upon that. And same with that dock. That dock is going to need some updates to it to be brought up to regulation. You can rebuild that. Sometimes that's easier than trying to refloat it, especially when you're working with older lumber framing. Now that decking was all just stained and it looks to be in good shape. You have until the year 2031 before that flotation under the side dock has to be replaced. That's the year 2031. So here's a utility closet. We've got a 19-gallon electric hot water heater. You can see some of that wall insulation right there. This is connected to city water, and that water is coming right through that wall there, through that insulation. And here's your interior air handler. This was added in 2008. That, I believe, is about a 2.5-ton HVAC unit. We've also got some taller ceilings in the back portion of this cabin. You've got maybe a 7-foot ceiling here in the living room area, and I might say about an 8-foot ceiling here towards the back half. So we've got 2 twin beds right now. This is basically a twin trundle bed, and that's the trundle that's just pulled out from under it and made into a bed. 2 more windows back here, one on either side. Ceiling fan overhead. And then here we've got a step up. This is a raised step going up to a full-size bathroom. And here we've got a walk-in shower, vanity sink, and a marine head or marine toilet. Now there's approximately 50-gallon plus waste holding tank on here. It's probably a little bit larger than that. The tank was a little bit oddly shaped, so I did some measurements on basically the smallest part of it, and you're looking at minimum 50 gallons. It's probably more like about an 80-gallon waste holding tank. Everything here on Norris does have to get your wastewater all has to get pumped out. So that's the toilet water. There's a pump out company that comes out to the boat and does that for a fee, roughly looking about $550 for a season. That's through Norris Lake Pumping, and they will pump out on a schedule from April through October. Ends up being about every 2 weeks during season. Now there's off-season rates available as well. If you want it pumped out more year-round, you can do that. It's a little bit more than double the cost of the standard in-season price. Now we've got 2 storage hatches. This one here, this is really just an access point. This is where the old engine compartment was when this was a navigable houseboat. That was removed. Basically, the transom was all sealed up, and you've got your your minimum 50-gallon plus waste holding tank is in that engine compartment. You've got another access hatch right in here that goes underneath the rest of the cabin part. There really is nothing under there right now, although it is all usable storage space. You basically have just your HVAC, your air ducts are down there. Your heating and air, and that's really about it. All right, so I'm gonna head on out off the rear deck. Got a nice little storm door here, swim boarding ladder here off the back deck, and then here's that exterior HVAC heat pump unit. So I've walked around on the covered side. I'm going to show you this other side right here. Oh, and here's your waste pump out right there. It says water, but that's actually your waste pump out. Now the dock I'm standing on now is not going with this one. The dock I'm actually standing on now is a neighbor's dock. Is not included in the sale, but again, this boat can stay here. You can relocate it here within the Marina Harbor or elsewhere on Norris Lake. And here's a look on that. Basically, this would be the starboard side of that front porch Issenglass enclosure area. And then we've got a newer roof on this. This is actually a rubber roof. That was installed, let's see, somewhere between 2008 and 2010 is what the sellers reported on that rubber roof is when that was installed. The Issenglass enclosure would have been added then as well, and that heat pump is from 2008. So somewhere between 2008 and 2010 is when they did all that maintenance work. And this is a steel hull. Don't know if I mentioned that earlier, if I glossed over it. This is a steel hull houseboat. That was, again, this was basically, the engine was removed, they sealed up the transom, and they started using it as a floating cabin or a non-navigable houseboat. So there's a lot going with this package, and again, it can stay here, you can relocate it, it's really your choice. The steel hull itself was that 13 by 54 foot size. You can see that vinyl siding here on the exterior, and basically it had catwalks back when it was a steel hull houseboat. So the interior space comes in at roughly about 10 feet by 38 foot cabin. That does not include your front porch right here. So if you included that, you get some additional interior space beyond that 380 square feet. So I think I've covered most of the highlights on that. I'll have the full list of features and specifications at the website. That may or may not show you the roof area. Again, this huge dock and carport is all included with it, as well as that boat lift. But you do need new flotation under this dock. You've got 11 years before that has to be done. And that houseboat or the floating cabin, once it is registered with the floating cabin program here on Norris Lake, you'll always own that footprint. If anything happened to the boat or the cabin itself, you can rebuild it. to that size and rebuild it to your liking, as long as you stay within that size. There's no expansions beyond that. You cannot go upward or outward. All right, so we're about to wrap things up here, kind of finishing where we started with this little front mount boat lift. Again, this is a 9-foot wide by, where was my measurements? A 19-foot boat slip, but again, that's going to accommodate a smaller runabout or bass boat or something like that. I'll have no problems with it. It's probably only rated at about 2,000 pounds probably. You can add another tank to that, and you can even add extend that lift on the back end of it, although I wouldn't recommend it. I would stick with this size or replace it with something that's going to be more accommodating to your boat. All right, website's yournewboat.com. If you've got any questions, please contact us through there. We do not monitor the YouTube comment page. You can reach out to us by phone, by text, or by email, but I always remind you, if you call me on the phone and get my voicemail, would like a return phone call, just make sure you leave a detailed message. I'm often without cell phone reception. If you don't leave a message, I will not know that you called. And the yournewboat.com logo popping up in the top right-hand corner of the screen is just simply to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're not already, that's a great way to be notified of new listings as they come available in our area. Thank you again for joining us.